What's up, everybody? Good to see you. Thanks for coming to another episode of Wireframe, brought to you by Design Systems House. I'm your host, Donnie D'Amato. You saw the green screen again. It literally just went out as soon as I hit the button. It's incredible. I think I have a part coming in to fix that. Anyway, happy Friday. It's great to see you Friday. Actually, today was a wellness day, so I spent it having lunch with my mother. And I actually showed her the set. She's very excited about the set. She might even be watching this right now. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know who's watching this. I'm not paying attention to the metrics as I'm doing this live. They're somewhere back there on this computer screen somewhere. But today, I had a meeting, actually, today. And this goes back to a little bit because I got in contact with Jesse Gardner, who's leading over the design system at New York State. And I live in New York State, and as you know, New York State design systems, awesome, so great. So I ended up having an opportunity to connect with him a few months ago about some of the work that he was doing. And then on Tuesday, I was at a accessibility meetup in New York City with my wife, because we're both into accessibility. And Jesse was there. We're like, oh my God, what are you doing here? So we got to actually chat in person because normally he's, you know, in an office upstate. And he said that he was, you know, doing some stuff down there. And he also goes to the accessibility meetup a lot of the times, which is cool. Speaking of which, it was an awesome meetup. Actually, the content of it was excellent in terms of the topic. That particular topic was about preparing content for people who have limited proficiency in English. Right, so there's, especially in New York, you're going to have a lot of people who go to, you know, services and other things that are in New York, or, you know, any product or something like that, that don't have a good proficiency in English. So how do you prepare content such that they are able to understand and interact with that content? So there was a really good overview with that. In fact, I pinged the organizer of the content design meetup in New York to reach out to that presenter and potentially do that presentation for them, because I think that would be a really good cross-pollination there. So anyway, speaking of Jesse, like I said, Jesse and I were like, he was like, you know, really excited about some stuff that they were doing, wanted to share. And I got an opportunity to see some of the stuff that they were doing over there, which I'm under the impression that none of it's really like, you know, necessarily special, because they have a design system that you could visit right now, and we're going to go visit it. All right, so we're going to see some stuff that they have in there, and I'm going to give you an overview of what they were able to share that's on the site. So it's not anything that's necessarily private, but Jesse says that they weren't really wanting to, you know, they haven't really been shopping around because still a lot of buying that's going on in there, and to get it off the ground. But I'm excited about it. All right, so because I'm excited about it, it's on a website somewhere. I want to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it today. So let's go over to the computer, and I'm going to share some things that are happening over there at their design system. Let's go over to the New York State Design System. Boom, here we go. Here it is, the New York State Design System. This is at designsystem.ny.gov, and you can see it is looking good. It looks great. There's some really nice illustrations here. Jesse was shouting out the illustrator that does the illustrations, and in fact, if you go to some of the pages down here, actually, let's go to component library, or this is not a link yet. Okay, it's a work in progress, they told me. Let's see here. So we'll go to the link that's here, and I think they saw the input they were talking about before. So yeah, look at that illustration. That's nice, right? That's really nice. So yeah, so they have a really nice documentation site. They actually do use web components. Hey, one more for web components out there. So you have the NYS dash text input, and that's what this thing is, you know, right here. They also use CSS variables, so all of my favorite stuff. But the thing I want to talk about today is something that they actually shared, which was this post by Leo. Leo Vogle. Leo was also on the call today explaining the work that they were doing over here, and this post was shared. It's on Medium, but apparently it was originally shared here on the New York State Design Systems site. And the title of it here is Rapid Wireframes to Prototypes with Fidelity Modes, okay? And you could see this, this image here, and I'll explain it for the folks that are just listening at home. This image is effectively showing a representation of a wireframe. It has like this scribble kind of look for the text, and you know, some areas that look like for buttons and stuff like that. And it's have this menu next to it. It's checked off low, and there's also options for mid and high. And then there's an arrow that points off to the higher fidelity one, and it's clearly, you know, has, I mean, it has lorem ipsum text, sure, but you know, there's a nice font there. The colors look correct, and it shows that it's high. So going through the post here, you could see some of the expectations that are being demonstrated, where again, you're going to have this low fidelity component. In this particular next example here, it has like a button, and the button has different values for their variables that are applied to it, right? So you have, in the wireframe case, you have a gray as the background for the button, but in the high fidelity, you have the primary brand blue, right? Meanwhile, again, for the fonts, Comic Sans or redacted script for the low, then Comic Sans, then Enter for the high, and you can make those changes to increase the fidelity of the component, which I thought was really interesting. And the way that they're doing this is with variable collections in Figma. So what they have is a couple of tiers. They have primitive variables, so you can imagine those being like your color blue 500s and things like that. And then at the end, there's these things called applied variables, and you could think of them a little bit like semantic, or even maybe like a component token kind of thing in there, because they're assigned directly to the components. Those are the tokens that the consumers are using, right? So your people who are building components, they're going to go ahead and use those applied variables. They're being applied to the components. And then there's a middle layer, and they've called the middle layer routing variables. And the routing variables, you know, in terms of the explanation here, is that they're taking the primitive variables and they are routing those variables through this, you know, routing system, so to speak, to eventually be assigned to the applied variables that eventually get to the components. And you go to and say to yourself, well, hold on a second. That sounds a lot like semantic tokens, right? And the answer is yes, it sounds like a lot like semantic tokens, but in fact, it goes a little bit further than that, because this is ultimately a Mison mode kind of approach, right? Because what the expectation there is that you're able to swap things in and out, right? So you can even see here that says mode X and mode Y, right? So mode X has a certain configuration, mode Y has a certain configuration, and the ability to swap those in and out is what's effectively routing the variables differently, right? And that's another good way of explaining what Mison mode is doing, right? Because you're effectively rerouting the variables, right? You have some color blue 500 that, you know, hits a particular mode and says, where does that blue go? Well, sometimes it ends up on the button, but in other times it ends up on the surface of a card, right? So depending on what gets swapped in and out. Now, I'm assuming that the way that they're doing it here in Figma is specific to the way that Figma operates. And again, I don't have a lot of in-depth Figma knowledge and ins and outs of it, but conceptually, it is absolutely the Mison mode idea. My expectation in what I was seeing in some of the demos that they were showing me was that it is affecting the entire page, which is totally reasonable. It's easy to grasp that way. If you know about Mison mode, you'll know that Mison mode is actually all about contextual changing. So you could change a section of a page, or that section could be the entire page, and you can nest those things however many times you want. So this is the steps toward Mison mode, and I really enjoyed what I was seeing here. So let's continue and see what else we got here. So yeah, in this area here, I'm just going to take a quick drink of water, but in this area, they're talking about the different kinds of variables that they're using. And specifically, their routing variables. They have a couple of different examples here. They have a branding kind of kind of, I guess, concept, fidelity concept, device size concept, and appearance concept. And the appearance has light, dark, high contrast, things like that. And again, this is, and when I was speaking with them, this is one of the final things that I was speaking about, is when you are trying to name modes and have them compound on top of each other, that's the real hard thing, okay? Because what ends up happening is that, sure, when you are just dealing with like tokens on top of tokens on top of tokens, that in and of itself is a really daunting task to have to manage and curate and all of this stuff. So when I suggest Mison modes, because it reduces the amount of tokens that you need to maintain, well, the feedback that I've gotten from folks that know about the process or understand the whole thing, it says, well, that's just, you know, you're offloading the amount of tokens that you need to curate elsewhere. And the answer is like, yes, but the other kind of more significant consideration is the actual curation part. Because now, okay, we've reduced the tokens, but now we have to curate what it means to be, let's say DMV at mid-fidelity for tablet in dark mode, right? And like, how do I curate that token, right? Is anyone thinking about what that means? What does it mean to be just even DMV dark? What does that mean? Or be DMV mid-fidelity dark, right? Because I'm assuming the device size isn't going to change much when it comes to color. But what does that mean, right? Is someone out there curating that color? And in the book I'm writing about Mison mode, I have a direction to take on that attempts to simplify, but unfortunately it also does reduce the control that a designer has, which I think is an okay thing to do, because again, I don't think it's that important to necessarily have to have an opinion about the DMV mid-level fidelity dark expression. I'm not sure if that's really an important part of their day to figure what else that is, but I think it's much more important to figure out what is the general idea of mid-level fidelity. What is the general idea of dark mode, right? And how to express that concept in a general sense as opposed to a very specific curated sense. So that was something that I kind of, shared as well as a response to this, because it is a challenge. Because there's other things in the routing variables, I guess, location for them that could also contribute to the combinatorics that might explode from all the different possibilities that are in here. All right. So, all right, so we have another image. I love a good image here. So the next image that they're talking about here is understanding the fidelity routing collection. Is this exactly what I kind of talked about already? Yeah, it kind of looks like that, right? So they're kind of showing a graphic here of a collection of fidelities where high fidelity is Proxima Nova for a font, mid is Comic Sans, and then low is the redacted script. And each one of those can be slotted into the applied layer, where whatever the font family is that you chose for one of those layers, that goes into the applied, and then that applied, I guess, collection ends up into the component being applied onto the component, right? So that's very nicely done. More examples of this. Okay, so they talk about a FigJam workaround with fidelity modes because they're working in FigJam to effectively jam on different compositions for layout, right? So actually down here, they're talking about building a smart wireframe sticker sheet. So what's happening in here is that they have a sticker sheet in FigJam. And in FigJam, you are able to take the components in FigJam and plop them into predetermined wireframe devices, mobile, tablet, desktop, things like that. And you can compose a form or a announcement or something of that nature, right? And then, if it goes on here, let's see, workflow in action, perfect. What you could do is, once you've composed your low fidelity wireframe, you could change the fidelity. You can increase that fidelity such that you go from a low fidelity, which is what you were working in, to the mid-level fidelity, which increases, it kind of adds the Comic Sans in there as a font, so you're not, again, worried about, oh, this, the font doesn't look great. Again, this is really trying to focus on the composition, user experience of the stuff, and I love this. I love focusing specifically on, hey, let's lock down what the user experience is meant to be, and then we'll sweat the details, right? And in this particular case, the details are already sweated, right? Because all you got to do is change it to a different fidelity level, and then boom, the additional details are right in there, right? And the cool thing is here, and in here as well, is you have this last one is talking about the Figma MCP, which is actually generating this as code, right? So the really cool thing, and they didn't demo this, but they were explaining it, was that they have Figma Code Connect in there. All right, so they have Figma Code Connect that is basically saying, hey, here's a coded component from the design system. We're going to have a representation of it and connect it in Figma such that when you're using the sticker sheet, you're pulling components into the sticker sheet, the Figma knows what components you're actually pulling. So when you switch it over to dev mode, you can effectively inform Figma's MCP server to chat with it in VS Code or IDE or something of that nature, and say, hey, I'm building out this actual thing that it could see. How do I do that in code? And boom, 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 boom. It's pretty much there from what they tell me, which is pretty cool. I think the only thing that was like a little bit on the, I guess the touch-up side is layout, right? Because the layout from one-to-one might be a little bit tricky from what Figma's doing to what you might need in the code. But in terms of the composition, getting the composition and the props right and all of this stuff, there's something really interesting about the ability to just go ahead and have all of those settings set, right? I mean, as a developer, when you are working off of a comp, right, you got to go ahead and figure out, oh, okay, well, which component even is this? Well, that's solved for you. All right, well, what are the props with the component? Well, that's solved for you. Well, what are the values for those props? Well, that's solved for you too, right? So that is cutting all of the fat out of a lot of the process in the handoff, right? To go ahead and connect these things up. So it's really cool to see people using the Code Connect feature, which I think is really cool. There's definitely some gotchas in there. Like one of the big gotchas that I initially saw when I saw Code Connect was this, I didn't want to have to handwrite that config. Since then, I hear that you can potentially have that written for you, but it's only in a React ecosystem. This is a web component one. So there's some work to be done there for anyone, right, that needs to do Code Connect. But I think, the proof of concept here is clear, right? So let's keep going down here, see if there's anything else in here. Oh, bonus. Okay, bonus is dynamic component variance by fidelity. I'm trying to see if I remember hearing about this in our conversation. Oh, the logo. Okay, so they kind of switch out different kinds of, assets, right? So you could switch out the New York State logo and have that have a different look and feel. You can even see the examples if you're on the video here. You can see the examples of logos changing a little bit, where it's a little scribbly here, but in here you can even see the text in here. So I think that's actually really, really cool. I really think they're doing some really awesome stuff over there, especially as a government design system. I always like a government design system because there are obviously certain rules and regulations that they need to follow and be adhered to much stronger than just a regular old, application, right? That's just, in the field and just like, oh, okay, here, try this on for size. And, either it's usable or it's not. But they're really doing a really great job of trying to streamline the process, to really focus on what's important, which of course is user experience and the usability of things. For lots of different services in New York State, which is awesome. Yeah, I'm just really excited about the stuff that they're doing. I'm really happy that they were able to share that stuff with me. And you should absolutely visit Design Systems. Is it Design System? No, designsystem.ny.gov. Check out the other stuff that they're doing. I think it's really cool. Let's see. Anything else that I need to talk about today? Not in particular. I'm still obviously working on getting this show better. If you haven't noticed in the original, actually, you probably didn't notice because there was a big green screen in the beginning. I put on a nice, cute little avatar on my doll over here. just as a placeholder, because I'm not talking with the AI at the moment right now. Again, I need to really like get past the intro problem, which I keep trying to solve. I do have a piece of equipment that hopefully will be coming in shortly that's going to fix this camera. Come on in. Here's the camera, this camera, so that the intro actually looks correct, which now it wants to work. Whatever, it's fine. So anyway, let me know what you think about the New York State design system. I think it's great. Leave it down in the comments below. If you want to find us on the internet, it is wireframe.fm. I'm going to figure out what this intro is all about eventually, somewhere in there. I still need to make a checklist. I got so many things I need to do. What else do I need to do? The book is still cooking. We are getting close to starting on the editing part of the whole thing, trying to figure out how to do pre-orders for that kind of thing as well. And then what else? Have to start on this the presentation for the UK and any other particular presentation people are looking for me to have. I'll have some availability for that as well. I have the side projects as usual, because of course I do, but I have to wrap all that stuff up before I start presenting stuff. There's a lot to do, folks. There's a lot to do, and not a lot of time to do it. I mean, it feels like a lot of time because I do have, what, in 2 months or so? It's not a lot of time, though, because, you know, there's life is in here, right? I got life things to do. You know, last night I was out with my sister-in-law celebrating her birthday with the family, you know, and today I had lunch with my mom. There's, you know, there's life stuff going on in here. So do the best I can. I hope you folks are enjoying the show. Like I said, I'm going to have a proper intro at some point, but barring all that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.